record, and there we go. What's going on, fellow art warriors? Welcome back to another monthly challenge critique stream. This is for the month of June. And yeah, we didn't have too many submissions this month, but I think that's partly in due with the fact that people were probably on vacation, and also we had a really wacky prompt this month. But I am pleased with the ones I've seen, and I also think that we could probably go through some of these studies as well. Markov, I will show yours as well, but I'm just gonna have to like pull Discord over a browser to show your video. But yeah, Alice and I talked it over, and we think that Matilda should have won this month. We felt like this piece was super creative, and it just kind of felt like what we've been seeing with the AI stuff, and it was kind of a funny take on it. It's really interesting. We could get into a whole deep discussion on the AI thing, and that's not necessarily something I want to do right now. But I think more than anything, what it spits out is just stuff that I guess sometimes you wouldn't normally think of. So I think if we're trying to be unique digital artists, that's a good exercise for us to do in order to almost like compete with it to a certain extent. It's just like, what's something weird we can do with our art to, have more of a unique portfolio, unique spin on things. So cool. Yeah, let's kind of dive into these.
Right on. Final Fantasy.
That's been my wallpaper for like years at this point. All right, let's just go into Matilda's piece first.
Yeah.
Dude, what is going on, man? Why are my tooltips like miniature? Okay,
Tiny tooltips.
cool. So this is going to be a weird critique as well, right? Because, it's a lot of this is up to interpretation, but I think at the end of the day, even if this is weird and we're trying to emulate like, AI generation, we still want it to end up being a finalized, polished piece. So, that being said, I think first of all, I don't know if Matilda like totally like finished this piece, but I think just some of the elements are like a little loose, a little like unpolished. We could probably, you know, render out the legs and actually render out these wacky like 10-fingered hands, push the lighting, maybe give more of a what do you call it, like a gradient on the background potentially to kind of focus in the top, because I think right now we're kind of seeing like Batman's eyes are sort of glowing, but it's not standing out as much as it could be because of the fact that um, we have no gradient going on.
Yeah, I do want to just commend Matilda for like her ability to interpret how AI generated images are constructed.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's clear that she spent a long time like looking at the way that the image is like it's got those weird blurry moments where the pixels are just like a jumble of nothing.
Mm-hmm. Like over here, it's kind of blended in.
Yeah. And where like the Batman ear turns into a Mickey ear, but it's also kind of one of the blobs of the like Naruto robe. And that's one of the like fascinating things about AI art. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, you guys, but my husband is actually an AI scientist, which makes for fascinating conversations around the dinner table. Like,
I can imagine.
I'm talking about like, man, this is my life, this is my career. I'm a digital artist in this day and age, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I can tell you about how all of these images are made in the computer box. Um, and like he has sat me down and like shown me the process of like how the image is generated, and we have spent a couple of hours together like working on like visualizing the prompt go through the machine, and I'm like, this is fascinating but also breaking my heart, you know.
Yeah.
uh so um I think it's really cool that you spent the time, Matilda, to like physically like imitate this like weird uh a creation that the uh algorithm made. And I'm curious, I'm not sure if you're here with us right now. I don't think that you are. um so maybe when you watch this later, uh if you do, uh you can let us know how like working on this made you feel. Um, you know, because AI pieces are very contentious, and they do make us feel a certain way. So like replicating the painting in the style of this generated image, like, was it a like what kind of thoughts and feelings came up for you? Um,
Yeah,
I'd just be
definitely.
curious to know that.
Guys that are watching the stream, is it, I'm noticing it's kind of like flickering green. Is this happening when you're watching it too, or is it just in my little preview window it's doing that?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it,
You're
so
not
I
seeing it? Okay. Hold on. I don't see a flicker, no green. Okay, cool.
think it's just your little preview that's having a
Yeah, rough
spell
time.
check.
Show
Yeah,
show my screen share. Okay, that might also be contributing to
that might
this
help you.
is lagging, maybe. Sorry guys, I don't know. I feel like we did this same setup last time and I wasn't having this much trouble. I don't know. I don't know what's different. But yeah, basically what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of giving it a little touch up, you know. It's hard, right? Because like we were just saying, like we get what the prompt is, but I don't think that means, you know, don't have a piece that looks like it's just a jumbled mess. It's like have a jumbled mess that still feels like a finished illustration. But I am loving these kinds of like different colors. There's like the turquoise in the skin color and some of these oranges and everything. It's also like kind of confused like where the lighting is actually coming from, but that kind of makes it interesting as well. I think just some of these elements we can kind of bump out a little bit more and give it a little more give it a little more love. Like some areas like this, it's almost like that was one of the first things I noticed actually. It's like half female, half male kind of thing. I was like, oh, that's really creative. But it just feels like you could sell it harder if you took the time to kind of render some of these areas out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, I think for prompts like this where we're going like really wild, these can be portfolio pieces for you guys. So
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Uh, and I think your use of color in uh a lot of a lot of these moments bring back your human element and your creative touch, which, you know, uh is the benefit of what we do as artists. Um, and as Nick was saying, it like it um the the benefit of like thinking about full rendering and composition and lighting also is what makes it into a uh, fully realized piece and not just a uh, something that an algorithm can generate.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, some of these other marks too, like there's this one right here. It's just a little too obvious, you know. So some of those things, just the kind of attention to detail things. I've also noticed this quite a lot after doing so many of these critiques, but these sorts of marks right here, where it's like you see the the brush that the artist is using, it's like you don't want to see these brushes from such a distance. You'll notice even with like very very popular, you know, established professionals, you'll notice when you look at their piece from like screen size, everything seemingly looks blended. But then you zoom in like once or twice and you see like, oh, like nothing is really blended that much. It's just the way in which they've kind of laid the shapes next to each other to create that illusion of 3D. So, you know,
mhm.
like with a very small piece like this, I'm kind of just like creating more of a defined shape, and we can still see those little strokes. Maybe I can add one more value step up just to give
So
this. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
I'm gonna be a little bit of a devil's advocate,
Yeah.
Nick, and say and put an asterisk next to what you just said, because sometimes you can see a very deliberate brushstroke in some artist pieces, um,
Yes.
like very um, accomplished artist pieces. I'm thinking of like maybe Trent Kaniyuga uh, is very deliberate with his mark.
But I think that I agree. I think that it's a matter of following the form though with the marks.
Yes.
So like, I think that's kind of maybe what you're trying to say. So like, I tried not to destroy the mark making, but I made a shape like this, as opposed to before, the shape was kind of like this, you
Hmm.
know, and it was like, you know, you couldn't really tell like exactly which direction anything was sort of going in.
Yeah.
And then over here too, right? Like we have like a mark going up this way, we have a mark going up this way, and then this way, and then this way. Whereas we could kind of still have that brush strokey feel, but just give more of like a flow to the shape, the
Absolutely.
like larger shapes
Yeah.
you're making, right?
I I want to say like I definitely agree with your critique here of Matilda's brushstrokes. What I want to say is like it's not a hard and fast rule that you shouldn't be able to
C brush
uh
strokes.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah,
because
yeah.
um when you like get a little more facile with them, maybe they can become a very expressive part of your work and like become a like zinger moment, you know.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a good call out. I'm gonna try to. I think we're good on this piece. I'm gonna try
Yeah,
to restart Photoshop for
sure.
the next one, just to see if that does anything. This is like really frustrating. It's like I just want to be able to paint normally.
Yeah.
Open with
Well
Photoshop.
done on that piece, Matilda. That was very cool.
Yeah, nice job. Yeah, if I have to, if I could vent about Photoshop for like 5 seconds, I don't know if you guys have noticed this too, but I feel like every time I update, like something is totally broken. I don't know if you guys, if anybody's updated to literally the most recent Photoshop, but it's actually unusable because when you use the hand tool, it sticks to the canvas. So like you guys know when you like move the canvas, you hold space bar, you move something, and then you let go of space bar, and it should go back to your last tool, like your brush or whatever. It stays on the hand tool even after you let go, and it's like a reported bug, you know, and it's been that way for months. So I've had to use like an older version of Photoshop. So that's also why I'm like, I don't know, is Photoshop just jacked up right now or something like that? Um, it just drives me nuts. I've been using this software for like over a decade, and I don't know how they manage to screw things up that like have always worked. You know?
The longer I use Photoshop, the more I love Clip Studio.
Oh my god. I hear that so much. Everybody's like likes all these other softwares, but I've used it for so long. I feel really hesitant about totally switching up my workflow.
Yeah. Uh, Photoshop has a lot of quality of life uh, um, benefits, but it's I think that it's really designed for editors,
Mm,
and it's it's a tool for people who manipulate photos. It's a
mm-hmm.
Photoshop,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
not
feel like
really a.
so many people, are digital painters that use like I don't know, if I had to guess, I would think that like half of the people that use Photoshop are probably digital painters. Um, yeah, BR is saying Photoshop is industry standard.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I I think it just.
keep pushing through. Okay. Yes.
It's my friend Reen. Hi, Reen.
Hey, thanks for joining. Okay, Biaro's piece. Biaro, do you want to tell us a little bit about this piece? What you were thinking when you made this? Because this is bonkers, man. This is very interesting. This literally looks like something straight out of like Elden Ring, or he goes, These things are like praying to it. It's it's really cool. I think my overarching critique for this one is sort of the same as Matilda's piece, where I'm seeing the AI influence and like the wackiness. I just think some of the rendering could feel a little bit more realistic. So like this hand, for example, I guess it's more than anything we should just kind of try to figure out exactly where this light is like hitting on this figure. So I know you guys have seen me do this before, but I like to kind of draw out these like light maps. So we have sunlight coming this way. So yeah, it would be hitting this thing like here, probably on this hand there, maybe a little bit on the back there. Really, any plane that's perpendicular to the light is going to be receiving the light, right? So here, on this knee, and then what you want to do, so you want to have this light be kind of like a warmer color because it's seemingly a warm light pouring through like a sunlight, right? And then when you're working on your kind of like fall off light colors, it should transition more into a cool color. So I literally think when you have your sketch phase set up, you should try actually doing what I'm doing now and like thinking through like where is this light hitting and how is it going to transition in, and then you can also map out like occlusion shadow. So that would be like where forms are touching and there's really going to be no light. So like under his arm or its arm right here as well. And I think that's why this figure thing is feeling kind of blobbish as opposed to like really solid in some of these points. Probably in between these, like, I guess we'll call them arms, this would really be shaded under the chin here. And if you do a really accurate sort of blobby light map, you should start to see forms feel three-dimensional just from these sorts of marks. The way I like to think of light and shadow is almost as if you were to take a photograph and do like the posterize setting in Photoshop. You really get a sense of how that thing is still three-dimensional looking, even though you've reduced all of the values and all the colors to just like 4 or 5 values.
Yeah.
So that being said, let's try to do a little paint over.
That's how I think about it too, actually, Nick. Like,
Yeah,
I'll often be like, "Hey, so you know the posterized filter in Photoshop?" And people are like, "What do you mean?"
yeah,
Like, I don't know, just like visualize that in your brain
yeah.
and apply it to your form. And they're like, "Oh,
Yeah, it almost like sounds like that doesn't really make sense, but it's once you start learning how to paint shapes, painting becomes more or less like paint by numbers.
exactly." Yeah. You just identify shapes of light and shadow and fill them in,
Mm-hmm.
and
With the
then you
appropriate
sort of
colors.
nuance it.
Yeah,
And it's more complicated than that sounds, obviously, because you have to think about value and color temperature and um, bounce light and blah 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 and all that
but
other
I
stuff.
think if you get your values down, the color stuff is like very much secondary. Color is something you can kind of figure out after. I don't want to say totally after, but if you can render something to look three dimensional, even if your color theory sucks, it's just going to be that much easier to introduce like actual color theory and
Yeah,
make things look super realistic.
this is why uh, often in if you take in beginning painting 101, they will start you working in black, white, and gray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing I'm going to recommend to BRO is I can tell you've used some what are these called, adjustment layers, right? Like color dodge and stuff like that. I would try for the time being to never ever ever touch those and just to paint the color and light, because you're gonna learn so much from forcing yourself to like hike up these like really bright brights, the really dark darks, without relying on things to kind of like quickly do them for you. I have learned quite a lot forcing myself to do that for a while, and now that I know enough of how it works, it just makes using the adjustment layers on something that much more accurate and that much quicker for me.
And
But
more powerful
yeah, yeah,
when you do introduce them. Yeah, I try to only save those for when I need like magic or
mm-hmm,
the glow fall off glow around a fire,
mm-hmm.
um or something like that. You try to get as far as you can without introducing one of those uh adjustment layers. um
So the other thing I'm trying to do right now too is you have a very warm setting, right? Like it's you have all these browns and oranges and stuff like that, and in the shadow areas, instead of like introducing a blue, which I think would start looking really weird and out of place, what you can do is you can grab one of your oranges and then just like really desaturate it, maybe pull it a little towards the cooler colors on your color wheel, but these like purpley grays are going to give that like dimensionality to everything without totally introducing like a new palette to your painting. So hopefully that makes sense.
Nick, we seem to have a lot of people jumping in and then hopping right out again.
I almost wonder if when I started the stream and I clicked like notify everybody, if they open Discord and it like hops them in immediately, or they're clicking like yes to a notification. Guys in the
Hmm.
chat, let me know if it did something like that to you.
That I don't think that that's possible.
No?
No.
You don't think if I started the stream, it might say something like, "Oh, stream is starting now. Do you want to join?" And people are just kind of opening their phones and like
I mean, you can
clicking.
do that, but I um that's a choice that people make. If they say like, I want to join it, and then they come in and they're like, oh no, I don't want to be here. That's fine,
Yeah, I
right?
don't. I don't. No, no, no. I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're accidentally clicking they want to join, but they're like not.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know. They're like at work or something like that. I don't know what's going on either. This is only the second time we've done this stage channel thing,
Yeah.
so we're gonna
I,
have to
I'm
kind of
just
just
worried that
roll.
maybe people who are very new to the community can't join. Like they're getting
I
kicked out as soon as they hop in.
I don't think that would be the case. I believe I made these the settings that anybody at any level can join the art
Okay.
talks.
Okay.
And I would hope somebody, if that was happening to them, would let us know in general discussions. But I'm not seeing any messages. But yeah, I noticed that too. Like 5 people jumped in at once and then hopped right out.
I will ask. You keep going talking about
Okay.
the
Okay.
art.
Yeah. Sorry guys. This has been quite a stream today. Thankfully, I know all you guys in the chat right now, so hopefully you're just like bearing with me. Can I can cool it on professionalism, Nick, for a little bit. Yeah, Biaro says we chillin'.
Yeah, we chilling.
The other thing I would also recommend, Biaro, is you have all this grain, and I get the effect that you're trying to go for, but if I would do something a little more spaced out if I was trying to do like dust particles. I think that's kind of what you're trying to capture. And you can either kind of manually make a little like couple dots, or you could create a brush. I don't know. This might be helpful to anybody that's watching or anybody that ends up watching it on YouTube. But you could just take your basic brush, space stuff out, do shape dynamics, pen pressure for the size jitter, angle jitter on this jitter, scattering. You can scatter quite a lot. Let's space this out some more actually. And then you can kind of just start like playing with it. Like this feels pretty good to me. Oops. Just kind of like dot these little things around. Now I'm getting like variation in my little, dust ball things. I should have put this on another layer, but what you can then do is add a blur to it so it looks like there's a little bit of motion, like it's coming down. And I think that would kind of capture that like God ray light pretty nicely. Brush creation. Oh, let's see what he said. Brush creation is something I need to mess with a lot more. I've made a few over the years, but not enough. I think the engine on Clip and Photoshop are fairly different too.
Yes, they are different.
Okay. Kind of looks
Um,
like sand falling through the hole.
BRO, do you work in Clip Studio or Photoshop? Forget. Clip Studio. Okay, yeah. Um, there are so many brushes in available for free on the like community or whatever it is. The
Asset store or whatever.
Yeah, in Clip Studio. So, um, I may even have some like particle brushes in Clip Studio. Uh, I know I have a ton of like traditional-esque um, brushes, which are sort of in line with how Nick likes to paint and how I like to paint. And if you'd like some of those, just let me know and I can send them to you. They're all ones that are just available for free. Uh I don't pay for any of the brush packs on Clip Studio because I'm broke. So I just download the ones that are available for free. So anybody who wants brushes, hit me up. I'll link you to the ones that I've got. Um, but I think like, if uh there are some like pretty good particle ones that look like falling snow or falling dust. Um, and Nick, do you make your own brushes ever?
I do if it's very specific. So like if I go down to, I think my made brushes are usually under my stamps folder. If it's like a pattern or
Yeah,
something, I've made a bunch of these. Like pretty much all of these at the bottom are like pattern brushes.
I recognize that.
Yeah. So yeah, those are pretty helpful. And then occasionally, if I download a brush and I'm not like totally happy with it, I'll just like kind of tweak it to feel more the way
Yeah.
I want it to feel. But I don't know, unless you're a very like varied brush painter, I don't recommend downloading too many different types of brushes because then it just like makes you like crazy.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And BRO also says like just using a few brushes.
Yeah.
It's a good practice to get into. Find what you're comfortable with and use like a couple. Um, I came from a traditional background. I've studied oil painting in for my college years. Fun trajectory for me. So I really prefer to work in a style that is kind of reminiscent of oil painting. Um, and I'm also leaning more on like brushes that feel more like gouache because gouache is also something that I like to use.
Mm.
Um, and it's like couple brushes that feel sort of traditional-esque will get me by. And then if I have to do something that feels a little like magic-y
Yeah,
or
magic. I've got like a lot of magic brushes or
yeah.
dust
It's only
or if there's like
like
a big like wall and I don't want to like but also typically I try to get away with here, let me try to find a good example of using just a normal painting brush that has some grain already in it. So like something like this guy, you can get a lot of variation just doing something like
yeah,
this. So,
yeah. Going back to Mark as um a, a tool for expression. Um
mhm.
and actually, BRO you up in the light corner up in the top right, um that kind of swoopy squiggly brush that brush stroke that you've got there is it's doing some heavy lifting. It looks like there's some snow or some bracken or something that's uh conveying like both the texture of um shadow and light, but also that like the thing is in the distance because it's blurred. uh I think oh, we've been talking to you about that, haven't we?
What?
About the fall off of detail
I don't remember.
um
Last
in
time?
brushwork. Yeah. No, maybe it was. No, I remember when we talked about like how to like differentiate uh like where one's eye should fall
Mm.
in a piece. I remember specifically in the BRO's painting for the Mario challenge.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think this is an improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, you're kind of focusing the eye on there. I do still think you maybe have a little too much extra.
Yeah,
Maybe not. I don't know. I think at this point maybe your composition for your main points are good, but maybe it's set dressing at this point. So, like, what I mean by that is like, can we get some? Draw a different layer. some rocks that are like kind of poking out a little bit more from the edge to kind of like guide you into this a little bit more? Is there like some weird like underground plants that we can put in the foreground to give
Yeah.
some more depth to the piece? Stuff like that. It just and I feel like on some of your pieces you go back and forth, and on the last one with all the like fox people around the table, I remember you took a long time to or you took a lot of time to refine that after the critique, and you ended up adding all of those props, and I feel like that totally like leveled everything up. So this might be the same sort of situation where you could just go in and like really think through like, okay, this is like a cave floor, like would there be some like weird mushrooms in here, or like I don't know, like a lizard on the wall, like
Sticky lizard.
yeah, like just kind of spitballing some things, but really thinking through like what does the inside of a cave look like? Maybe there's some, I don't remember if these are stalactites or stalagmites, whatever hangs from the top. Um,
You
maybe
got me,
there's
VRO.
what?
I said a sticky lizard, and VRO was like, "Yeah, get that sticky elixir."
Oh my god. Maybe there's some. I guess this looks more like a dry terrain, but maybe there's like some puddles, like because technically water could drip down through this hole. Stuff like that. That just kind of enhances like the little things that you're looking at. Like you don't have to spend a ton of time rendering all these things out because the focus I think is this weird looking thing, but just enough to get your eye there and really focus on that. And I am spending kind of a larger amount of time painting this thing up, but I'm hoping just by you guys sort of watching how I'm approaching this, it maybe helps you understand how I'm trying to form the light around this thing so it feels more three dimensional.
Yeah.
So like if I turn this, I'm really trying to push that light so that it feels just like a solid thing. The other thing that might be helpful is I know we've talked to BR about doing more like kind of 3D model stuff, like adding 3D models in, and also setting up still lifes and lighting them, as boring as that is sometimes, just like to really be able to understand like how light is hitting objects, I think could be really helpful. I
Yeah.
think this thing in general, I've seen a lot of, especially like Magic the Gathering artists use this technique, but you could like model a very basic model like out of clay of this little guy and light it, and then you have a perfect reference to just sort of copy.
Yeah. Um. First of all, welcome Super Moose. That's my friend Caitlin. Hey,
Oh,
Caitlin, what's up?
thanks for joining.
Yeah. Um. And BRO says, I think I need to study a lot of backgrounds in general, as most of them are an afterthought in these paintings.
Hmm.
That's a common issue. It's hard to focus on backgrounds because I think a lot of us are we're fascinated by story and by character and by action. We're interested in what's going on in a scenario. Um, so that's a common issue.
I think it helps, and I've tried to do this with some of the monthly study challenges. But if there's ever a background in a photo, like make sure you're taking the time to paint the background as well,
Yeah,
because I think that's what a lot of artists do is they're like, oh, I'm studying the character, I'm just going to paint the character, but you'll learn a lot from just knocking out those backgrounds as well.
yeah. I would encourage you, if this is something that um, appeals to you at all, next time you're out and about in the world, and you're just like taking a walking to the bus stop, driving down the street, keep an eye out for like, where is the light falling right now as the sun is setting? Where does it look
Mm-hmm.
cool? Um, is there an interesting snapshot that I can take in my mind right now? where, oh man, the sunset's making this shadow turn purple. Isn't that fascinating? Or like, I like the angle of these two roofs coming together. Can I save that for later? Um, just for me, it keeps it keeps life from getting a little too boring. Um, and I try to just hold on to those memories to like save for later. If I've got a sketchbook on me, maybe I'll like just scroll it down so I can think about it for later. It's just handy to keep any little like notebook or anything on you to like take mental notes about the world around you, to try and save cool things that you notice, because
Mm-hmm.
you'd be surprised at how much stuff you can steal from your
Life.
environment for um yeah, for your created worlds. um and the more you train yourself to notice those things in your background, uh the more you can start including it in your pieces. And uh I have mentioned this before, but like I was afraid of studying environments and architecture because I thought I was going to be bad at it and I thought I wasn't going to like it. And as soon as I started trying, I really enjoyed it. Um, because it felt like working on character, but on a bigger scale.
Mm.
So maybe, BRO, challenge yourself at some point to try designing a space instead of a person or a
Mm.
character and see how that feels.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll feel good.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And yeah, it's like I feel like you maybe kind of already said this, but like try to give that environment character itself. And that's, I think, what makes it fun, especially when you're more of a character artist.
Yeah. Because clearly you got the chops for giving character personality in life. And it's just being willing to inject that into the entire piece. Um, and then you'll get there.
BR, I almost want to see you do more of these like really weird, like demented paintings because this is really cool now that I'm kind of digging into this. And I think, I don't know, I just think it could be fun to
Nick is
pursue.
gonna borrow your little guy.
So the other thing, in terms of like kind of creating a character out of this too, like I'm trying to give it a little more personality. Like I noticed you had this like weird like this looks like a broom almost is connected to the skull, but I'm like, okay, how's it connected? So I put this like big metal nail in there, and then I was like, okay, what if there's a bunch of metal nails like sticking out of the skull, and then like I don't know, maybe it's cracking. You know, these are like how you can take one idea and lead it to another idea and lead it to another idea to make something like have a lot going on and make it really interesting. And then the other thing I did as well is I liked these like weird like tree rooty viney things sticking out of his back, and I just kind of added onto it to like make it crazy. I mean, think about this too. Like this is how you can really fill space, like kind of what we were saying. What if you did this? Like, what if you literally extended these things like all the way out here and it was like big and bushy and dramatic, you know? Obviously,
Yeah.
this would be easier if we had this on like separate layers or whatever, but this is another way to pull your eye in without having to add so much to the background. You can just kind of take up space with the figure. So that's just an idea. Yeah, and then these guys too, they just need a little bit of love. Like this one has more rendering than this one or this one, and I don't know, maybe you just ran out of time or whatnot, but just a little note. So Yeah, you can hopefully notice from a distance too, like even really small, that like I'm really trying to push those brights and darks and make it feel solidified. And then the other thing I was noticing as well when I was painting over this is like you have some areas where it's like, is this the shadow plane here or is it the light plane? And I think maybe you don't even really know. And those are things that you should try to figure out as early as you can to give it that dimensionality.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool. All right, let's take.
Very neat concept. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's take a look at Markov's piece. So Markov made a video, which is really cool. I love when you guys submit videos. It just kind of changes it up a little bit. Let me see if I can open this in open link. Let me see. Try to think of the best way to show this.
You streaming. You could just switch your stream window to.
Here, I got
the,
it. Got it in a video file.
There we go. Cool.
But he did a little bit of a kind of like a fan art thing. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this as well, Markov? And also, what software did you use to make this too? I'm always curious what people use to put these things together. Can I get this to loop?
Yeah, the other button.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Can you check the chat, Alice?
Yeah, he said the software was Spine.
Nice.
I don't know Spine.
Oh, Spine is really cool. It's just like kind of an intense program to use. It's have you ever used like the puppet tool in After Effects with like the little points and like you can like
I've
hinge.
never used After Effects.
Oh man. Well, the concept with Spine is instead of BR says Spine is used for
Oh.
rigged animation, so it's more like almost like puppet like as opposed to doing like frame by frame type animation. You can
Got
still
it.
add multiple frames, like if a character turns their head or something, but if you've ever seen, especially like those really cool like I'm sure you've seen it like in anime mobile games where the characters kind of like do these really cool animations and
Yeah.
their hair is blowing and stuff. That's usually done in Spine. So
Cool.
nice. I don't really have much to critique on this because I feel like it's kind of unique in what it is. But I think yeah, nice job. I'd be interested in seeing more animations from you as well, Markov, in the future if you
Yeah.
feel like you have time for that. So yeah, nice job.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay, let's see. I went a little long on the some of these paintovers, but because Meglet's here, I kind of just want to take a look at her study. Right, Meglet, you didn't. I don't think you submitted what do you call it? Like an
Uh,
illustration, right? I think you just submitted a study. I
Study
just
with some
realized
odd-
this dude's eyes. Maybe this was what she was doing. Is
Girl.
the eyes are like the AI weird thing.
That's freaky.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to look at, but that's pretty cool. Let me try to find the actual image as well, so we can kind of line them up.
He looks like he's got have you ever seen a
Bloody
daisy?
lizard eyes.
Well, like a daisy that has two little center bits.
I don't think so.
It's like a genetic mutation. Like it has like two daisies got fused. So they have it's like an extra wide flower. So it has like
Huh.
double the amount of petals. and double the uh it has like two centers and double the amount of petals, so it's just like a wide flower.
Oh,
It's
weird.
very weird, but that's what this reminded me of.
No, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's very rare. Um, but his eyeballs remind me of that.
Hmm. Okay. So this was interesting as well because we kind of cut off his face, and I don't know if you ended up just finding the rest of the figure, or if you used the little piece of his face kind of as a guide to paint the rest of it.
Aha.
But either way, it's pretty
Well,
cool.
there's the trend of using an AI image generator to take like a famous painting and see what is like behind the frame, so to speak. So
Ah,
perhaps
interesting.
Meg was using that as her guide.
Interesting. What else did she say? I just used the study.
The image, yeah.
I used the study image. Okay, cool. So you had to kind of guess on the rest of his face. That's interesting. Started with some odd elements from the prompt. Yeah, that's a cool way to do this. Okay, so let's see. I do appreciate that. I feel like I haven't. I don't know if I've ever seen you like really render something out like this before. Like especially from a study where you're like trying to make it realistic. I feel like a lot of the pieces that you've submitted have a hint of either exaggerated form or exaggerated lighting, or it's like veering on more like line arty with some painting underneath sort of thing. So it's nice to see you really pushing your color and stuff like that. And I hope you learned a lot from practicing this. I think to critique it, the thing that you'll notice if you put this in black and white is there's a lot more darks on the metal in the reference compared to yours. Your metal's looking like metal, but what's going to make it look like real metal is just pumping up that those blacks just a little bit. So I'm just going to do kind of a quick adjustment. Also, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, Alice, but when I restarted Photoshop's, everything's
Mhm.
seemingly like working much more
I
smoothly.
did. I did not
So
notice, but it. I'm so glad that it's working
yeah,
better.
yeah, I don't know.
I hope that it doesn't plague you when you're working normally, because that would drive me up
No,
a
no,
wall.
it's like literally I have no lag when I work without streaming. I just think it's because like I'm sharing screen and I'm recording, all that kind of stuff at the same time.
Yeah. Your poor
Okay.
computer.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, why are you doing this to me?
I've served you faithfully, my lord.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just using multiplier right now. Again, like I said to Biaro, I wouldn't recommend this for actually learning, but this is just to help show you like how dark we kind of need to push things.
Yeah. Sometimes I will be halfway through a painting, or I'll be like laying in the base values and stuff,
Mhm.
and I'll be like, you know what? I have not, uh, I'm trying to get everything laid down, and I have not reached. My lights are too uh mid,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
my darks are too mid. So I need to just adjust the levels. So I'll do an adjustment layer, and I'll just like separate it out.
Hmm.
Um, and the the advantage is training your eye, right? Because there's there's the we have this tool of we have like our suite of digital tools that make it easier for us.
Hmm.
Um, and you want to be able to like walk the walk as well as talk the talk.
Hmm.
But um, there's no reason that you shouldn't use the tools when you need to.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's more just like when you're learning, you
Yeah.
should you should really be practicing trying
Yeah.
to eyeball colors and light and everything so that when you're working on an illustration for a client and you're getting paid, you can efficiently use these effects to speed up your process as opposed to like do the process for you that you don't even know how to do.
Yeah, that's
Hopefully
what I was
that,
trying to say.
yeah, hopefully that kind of explains it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another just kind of like lighting thing. I'm going to just kind of do very basic like draw out like I did before. So we have this kind of tube looking collar, right? And we know that the light is kind of like, we can tell by his armor, right? The light is kind of coming like from this direction. And I believe it's more or less just like skylight pouring in. I don't really see sun like anywhere. Like I don't know if that's some sunlight. It looks kind of like more of like a cloudy day. But
Yeah.
we can generally say that the lighting is kind of coming at like this sort of like 3/4 angle. And we can tell on the reference because it's also the brightest spot right here. And you'll notice the light is hitting there and then it's sort of wrapping around the collar both ways, right? It's brightest in the middle and then it's darkening this way. And this area is all in shadow. But you kind of can hopefully see a little bit of like green color in here. And that's because, we have like a tree over on this side, like in front of him, and it's kind of bouncing back green light back onto that shadow plane. If he was in complete darkness and we just had this one light source angling this way, all of this stuff would be just like almost like jet black, right? There would be no fill in the light. And I think that's what confuses a lot of people with light and shadow because they see everything like more or less lit. It looks like it's lit, but you have to be able to kind of discern where the actual light is hitting stuff and what is shadow and then what's like bounce light coming back into it to make it like a little bit brighter. And then I want to point out as well because we're all in a dome, especially outside. There's skylight. Here, let me pick a better color. Kind of pointing down like this in all directions from above, and that's what's hitting the edge of his collar on the side. Once you guys start understanding what edge lighting really is, it's not like rim lighting where it's just like this really, like you see in anime, right? This like precise line around everything. You have to think about the fact that this collar is curving around, right? And there's light catching the back of it where it's curving right here. So that's why you see that little bit of light there. And I
Yeah.
want you guys to start trying to like notice those things in your studies, especially. So,
And Meg has done some of that. It's
yes,
clear that she has picked up on that.
yeah,
Um, the
especially in the metal right
intensity,
here. I'm seeing it
yeah,
here.
the intensity of it though isn't pushed as much as it needs to be, and some of the curves aren't matching
Yeah,
the way that they need to be.
yeah. His collar's kind of going more up,
Yeah.
like curving like this way, because the camera is actually like lower, right? Like this is kind of more like eyeball level, and that means that anything above us is going to kind of curve more up like that, and then anything down here is going to curve. You can even see it on his
Oh.
sleeve, right? Look at his
She
sleeve.
she says that she was trying to make it look like a hand wrapping around his neck to like enhance the
Oh,
AI of it.
oh, I see that now.
Yeah.
I do see that.
That's spooky, girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really cool. Okay. Okay, in that case, though, I would still say, though, that we can still follow these lighting principles on these knuckles. You would still get some of that, like, kind of,
Yeah.
like, dome rim lighting. But thank you for pointing that out. Sometimes we're not catching the stuff. And then also, I would just say, like, kind of, go kind of crazy with, like, the knuckles. If we're, like, being, like, really kind of creepy and weird about this, like make the fingers like kind of wrinkly or like look up like a reference of a hand and paint what you see.
Yeah.
This nail maybe could have like a little bit of a reflection of the environment as well. Okay. Come on. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
Oh, it's sticky.
Yeah, what is going on, dude? Um, Now all my tools are sticking though, which hasn't happened until just now. The mouth.
Too many sticky lizards.
Oh my god. The mouth. This is another area where we can add more of like an occlusion shadow because his lips are sort of pressed together. And typically, because it's like a downward lighting, the top lip, because of the way it's angled, right?
Like a little Muppet mouth.
Yeah. But this part is angled downward, right? So this is going to be darker if the lighting is hitting from the top, and then the bottom lip is going to
Yeah.
receive more
You
of
can
that
see it
light.
on me really clearly right now.
Yeah, yeah. So something to take note of.
Hello, pineapple.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah. You made it after your painting class. Very cool.
Nice.
Even more art. Nothing
These-
but art 24/7.
These metal buckles too, like we can see how if you actually color pick this color, it's like basically white, right? I wouldn't advise like putting white in your painting. I don't know, maybe depends how much contrast you want, but
Yeah.
you can go pretty darn close. And it's just going to make it feel that much more effective and shiny.
Shiny.
So with shiny things, remember with metal, it goes from light to dark very quickly, as opposed to skin, which is a little bit more. It's like kind of shiny, but a little bit more matte. The difference between light and shadow is more gradual.
Yeah.
In metal, you'll see very very bright, pushed up to very very dark. You wouldn't really see that on a face unless there's a direct lighting source and then like the nose is casting a very dark shadow or something like that.
Like with me, right here.
Yes. Yeah, but even still, it's like the dark side of your face is still has fill light. With metal,
Yeah.
it's like very very it's usually very very dark. You can kind of notice. And that's because it's like literally reflecting the environment. And what is it reflecting in this scenario? It's reflecting a bunch of tree branches, which are like an extremely dark brown color.
Yeah.
The other thing I kind of touched up with the face too is look for this as well. And I did kind of do this with Biaro's piece, but remember to gray out some of your colors. If you have everything at sort of the same sort of saturation level, it flattens everything. So mixing in some grayer purples in the skin with some more orangey colors is going to really help. So you'll see, even if I just lay this one color in, how it kind of just like, I don't know, it like feels more painterly, it feels more natural because our skin is not just like one solid tone on our whole body.
So feel free to fact check me on this,
Yeah.
Nick, because I'm not 100%. But color theory wise, when something is in like direct white light, it's going to be tinted closer. I'm like I want to be able to point on your color
screen.
square there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to lose saturation. It's going to be closer, tinted more white. It's going to be like over there.
Yeah.
And the more
If
more
it-
inch. Yeah.
If there's more color in the light, it's gonna catch more color on the skin. So that's why if you see somebody in firelight, like they're being lit by a candle or something like that, you'll see a lot more of these colors on the skin, a lot more of these colors, right?
Yeah.
But because this is more overcast lighting, the way we can sort of think about it is, very, very simple, right? We say, like, okay, let's just pretend this is his local skin color, this sort of like peachy color. And then we say, like, okay, the sky is sort of like a bluish gray. So it's like, I don't know, kind of like this color that's shining down on it. Well, these colors are going to mix. So we can kind of just lightly blend that into the skin, and now the lights are going to be a little bit more grayer. If I pick this color, it's not blue and it's not orange, it's like a grayish orange, right? It kind of pulls it more towards the left on this box. And then what we can do is kind of hang out in this general area to get like that variation in color while still feeling like it's in the same like color scheme,
Yeah.
right?
And you're also not going to see a lot of saturation in your shadows because
Yeah.
you don't get um there's no light to
Additive
feed
light. Yeah.
your um you need light to feed saturation.
Mm-hmm.
Um so you're not going to see saturation in your shadow area unless there is a bounce light of some kind that is providing it.
Yeah.
Uh
which
so
which there is in this instance, but you'll
yes.
still notice even the, let's call it, the greener shadows.
Hmm.
God, this is so annoying. The greener shadows on this side are still kind of like a more desaturated color, I think. I guess these are more desaturated.
Yeah.
But let's see. And that could be because there's like a cool light hitting a brown, and there's a
Yeah.
green light hitting the shadow. It's giving you a little bit more saturation. But it is just a general, good practice to kind of desaturate your shadows and then add color back into it, as opposed to like having already colorful shadows. So if I were to kind of paint this little like fold, I'd probably start with more of like this, brownish color. I would go a little bit desaturated and a little bit darker to get the shadow kind of plane of it, and we can kind of blend this in. And then I would pick my shadow color and then add that green bounce light very lightly back in. You guys kind of see how I did that? This is literally how I paint. And for me, it helps kind of round out all of those colors and makes it feel more accurate, as opposed to if we went like this, right? Let's say I did this and then I picked this green color and I painted it in. That just doesn't look right. It's not dark enough. It's
Yeah.
whatever. Even if I did a more dark green, I don't think it would give that same effect as what I did above. It still just feels like I'm painting too much green over top of it, as opposed to adding green into the shadow.
Yeah. This is also, it's kind of reminiscent of a traditional method of painting where you actually have to mix your colors on a palette.
Yeah.
Like Nick is sort of laying pigment over top of each other.
Yeah.
Um uh the other thing to notice is that because the metal is so shiny, it's
Mm.
getting more light, so it's getting more of a saturated um uh bounce from the trees. Um so you're gonna get
On
more
the
of
metal
the
itself.
yeah.
Yeah. You can see these like greens. You can see this
Mhm.
blue. This is probably skylight in between, unless
Yeah.
it's something with the cameras that's reflecting. But this is definitely, skylight between trees. Here's more green, like it's very, very
Yeah.
pronounced coming from the left side of him.
Yeah.
So
And if you metal is fun too because the closer you get to something, the more it picks up
that
the
color.
reflection and the more it picks up the color.
Yeah.
So if you like hold up a shiny metal object to something, I have like a pen and a highlighter here. I don't know if it'll. up. You
Yeah,
can
you
see like a
see
little bit of
pink on the other pen.
and yeah. Fun fact about light.
Yeah, yeah. But it's good to kind of do these experiments and just sort of play around to help yourself understand like why these things are working the way they're working. Like that's that's what I always talk about on these streams. So I know I feel like I'm maybe
Yeah.
beating a dead horse, but you guys really need to try to investigate like why something is working, and once you understand more or less why it's working the way it's working, you can literally paint anything. You
Yeah.
know, doesn't mean everything's going to be easy to paint, but you can paint anything because you
Yeah.
get those core principles. This is something specifically to Meglit that I've noticed quite a lot is really try to push your occlusion shadows. So like right here on the armor, like where the armor is meeting the vest or whatever, there are these like dark things. And what you want to try to do is make sure you're not just like doing like a line, like just a dark line. I'm still thinking about shapes. So like I'm thinking about the fact that this is casting like a little bit of a like that sort of shape to make that dark color as opposed to straight up just like having one solid thick line, right? That's just not going to look right. So yeah,
Yeah.
look out for those things as well. I honestly think with Meglit's pieces, it's this occlusion shadow and pushing her darks a little bit more, and then your stuff is going to feel like totally three-dimensional.
Yeah. Pushing darks is something that I struggle with also, Meg. So you're not alone. um, it's it's just something that you're gonna have to like keep a sticky note on
Mm-hmm.
in your brain. The struggle. And for the record, guys, the fact that I'm able to talk on these concepts is literally because Nick taught them to me. I think I
Oh.
can remember specifically like the conversation that we had during my mentorship where he was like, "Okay, so we're talking about metal today and how it reflects light." Um, so yeah, fun fact. Nick's mentorships, they're good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I want to leave you guys with one more thing. This is just me being very excited, but I think I told you guys I worked on that Disney movie quite a while ago, and I can share the link later. But it's called Kazazi Moto on Disney Plus, and it just came out today. I still haven't gotten to watch my episode because I'm waiting for my wife to come home so we can watch it together. But if you guys get a chance to watch it, my episode is called Muku Desi. I think it's episode 6. If you get a chance to watch it, let me know what you think, because I'm very excited to see that and share it with everybody. So yeah, guys, the new challenges are in the monthly challenge channel, and yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys end up doing this upcoming month. So
Yeah. Very good work today, you guys. Thank you again for submitting and looking forward to next month.
yeah,
Ah,
all right, guys, keep on painting. We'll see you next time.
yay! Bye!
Bye.